Story 1. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my family? Parents for leaving on a trip when I was being induced to deliver my stillborn son? I was 28 weeks pregnant with my second child, my son, when he passed, and I had to schedule an induction. My parents were to leave on a trip/cruise the day before. This trip was booked before I even became pregnant. They told me they couldn't cancel because they booked this trip with a group of relatives and were worried that these relatives would get lost without them. I acknowledged that I never spoke up to ask them to stay. I didn't want to beg anyone to be there for me. My parents were supposed to watch our daughter, 7, when it was time for the birth. Since this was sudden and with my parents leaving, we were scrambling to arrange care. I was in the hospital for 3 days. My cousins came to visit, my parents called, thanked them for being there for me, explaining that they couldn't cancel their trip. It felt wrong that my parents were thanking other people for being there for me during the most traumatic time of my life. Nothing could ever make me get on a flight and leave my daughter if she was going through this. My parents were also posting pictures and videos on social media the entire length of their trip, knowing what I was going through back home. My parents came home from their trip a week before the funeral. I didn't talk to them at all. I answered one of my mom's calls and said I'd consider forgiving them if they both apologize. She said sorry and that her trip was terrible because she lost her luggage, that if she could do it over again, she wouldn't go because of her lost luggage. I told her they're bad parents, and I haven't picked up another one of her calls since. My dad hasn't tried to reach out. Some context, my parents also weren't here when my daughter was born. They went on a trip, which they booked after I was pregnant, and left 2 days before my due date. I had an emergency C-section and complications with that delivery. I'm the eldest of 3, and my parents have always treated me differently, worse. My sister is the golden child. This is not to diminish the childhood trauma my siblings experienced on their own. My sister and her fiancé think I'm being harsh and a-hole. They think this one thing doesn't make them bad parents. My sister's fiancé says he wouldn't have canceled a trip. They don't think my parents being there for me would have made a difference. When I said this is the worst thing my parents have done to me, they disagreed. I felt invalidated by them, so I cut them off. They can't understand why I've cut them off and say they were questioning me to understand my feelings and trying to help me get over it by sharing their perspectives. My sister said she likes hearing others' perspectives and opinions, so I guess I should too. They don't get how my anger towards my parents is part of my grief. So am I the a-hole for being mad at my parents for not canceling their trip that was booked well before I was pregnant? Am I the a-hole for cutting off my sister and her fiancé for voicing their opinions? Now for the comments, not the AI-hole. You lost luggage? OMG, how horrible for you. So sorry I couldn't be there for you, but I was busy losing a child. Exactly. Imagine losing your baby, and your mom's response is basically, well, I lost my luggage, so we're even. The sheer lack of empathy is absolutely disgusting. That lost luggage comment was so incredibly cold. You are losing nothing by cutting them out of your life. These people are strangers to you. That along with this from the sister and her fiancé. When I said this is the worst thing my parents have done to me, they disagreed. How dare they decide what OP feels is hurtful? Just out of morbid curiosity, what actions were worse than abandoning you during this time? Not the a-hole, and your sister is nuts. And they think the way my parents reacted to me telling them the news I was pregnant with my daughter was worse. My parents shamed me and berated me and basically told me I'd accomplished nothing in life. I was living apart from them with my husband already, and I was 27 with my own career. I don't feel that was worse than this, but they do. Wow, that happened and you thought they would treat you better? Cut them out of your life. You're never going to get that apology. The fact your father hasn't even reached out proves that. They don't care about you at all. My parents were always emotionally abusive and physically when I was younger. They have generational trauma that they refuse to deal with. It's a complicated relationship. I've always held out hope that they can change and be better. I know better now. When I was about 17, now 49 female, my older sister lost her twin boys at 29 weeks. My sister had to go in and be induced as well. My mother and brother-in-law went with her to the hospital. I stayed home from school to watch my 2-year-old niece. We stepped up as a family. It was a traumatic time for all of us. My sister and brother-in-law owned their own business. I worked after school, weekends, holidays to give my sister as much time off to process and heal. That's what family does. You did nothing wrong for protecting yourself and your core family. Your mom, dad, and sister can F off. This is the way family is supposed to work. When my cousin lost her child at 32 weeks, my aunt went to live with her family for 2 months to take care of her and her other child. She took off from work with little notice and was prepared to lose her job because her child was in immeasurable pain, and she did what a mother is supposed to do and helped her. You know how I know your mom is a piece of crap? Your mom started telling you how terrible her trip was, and that if she knew it was going to be that bad, she would have stayed home. So that means if the trip was fun, she wouldn't regret her decision. You know how I know your dad is a piece of crap? You haven't heard from him at all. The both of them can F right off. P.S. The anger at your parents has nothing to do with your grief from the loss of your child. Don't let people say, it's just the grief talking. You are grieving the loss of your child and the loss of your parents. Those are two completely separate things. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's sterile affair partner to have her own daughter if she wants to share cheerleading with one? My ex, 44 male, cheated on me, 40 female, and ended our marriage so he could be with his affair partner/wife Jen, 42 female. This happened several years ago when our kids were very young. My ex gets our kids 6 days a month. He works out of state frequently, so this was the most consistent schedule where our kids would be with a parent, me or ex, instead of being left with a babysitter or his wife. According to my ex and Jen, she is sterile and can never have kids. I never asked, but they offered this up in hopes I would share the kids with her more and encourage them to embrace Jen as their second mom. I have not done this, and I have told them we are not friends, and they are not to expect favors from me after going behind my back and doing what they did. Jen was someone I knew before learning the truth. She was dating someone in my ex's friend circle and made a point to get to know me. I found out why after. She was expecting us being friends would help me not to hate her afterward. And I bring all this up because of what's currently going on. Jen was a big cheerleader in her youth and volunteers with local cheer groups. She wants my daughter, 10, to get involved in cheer. My daughter told me about it the other week because Jen was trying to make her go and my ex was backing Jen on it. She told me she didn't want to and she needed my help. All the kids are aware of the fact stuff like that has to be agreed on by both me and their dad. I reached out and told my ex our daughter will not be put into cheer against her will and that he needs to stop pressuring her to join. He didn't respond back the way he's supposed to through AP, so I noted his reply on the app and got a lot of cussing back. Jen tried to call me, but I didn't answer. She approached me a few days later while we were in the same store, and she told me I can't keep punishing her by depriving her of my children. She said she's been in their lives since they were little, and she has every right to bond with them and share stuff with them like that. I told her she does not get to force my kids into stuff like that against their will. I walked away, and she followed me around for a bit and told me how it was her dream to share cheer with a daughter and all the crap that I don't care about. I told her she should have a daughter of her own if she wants to share it and leave mine alone. She stopped following me after that, and I heard from X a few times after saying I was cruel to say that to her when I know she can't have children. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. No. I love it when people think they can force kids to do stuff. Forget adding the affair into the mix. I don't know everything about the app you mentioned, but you might want to add what happened at the grocery store. Keep documenting the harassment and pressure they are putting on you and your kids. They can figure out a different way to play house. Absolutely. Kids should never be pressured like that, especially when they've already said no. Adding the grocery store incident to the app is smart. It's always good to have a clear record of what's happening. They should know that children are not extensions of themselves or tools to fulfill their own unmet needs or desires. Not the AI hole first she steals the spouse. Now she's after the kids. Remember to record all the interactions with Jen in the parenting app. Do it as your wife approached and harassed me in the store over stuff we have already discussed in the app regarding activities the children do not want to do, but she does, and you are pressuring the kids to accept it. Document, 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 and then push for Jen having reduced contact with the kids due to the abusive pressure she is putting on them. Exactly. Jen's overstepping big time, and documenting everything is the smart move. She shouldn't be pressuring the kids, and if it keeps up, reducing contact might be necessary. When it comes to cruelty, nothing beats cheating on your spouse or befriending someone to steal their spouse. Those two soulless people can pound sand. Not the AI hole. She gets nothing from you. Him either. Exactly. The audacity of cheating, breaking up a family, and then demanding to share the kids like they're some kind of prize is disgusting. Jen made her bed. Now she can lie in it without trying to play mom to someone else's kids. Not the AI hole. I bet with you for my house that she would have let your ex get her pregnant before you even knew that they were cheating on you behind your back. I swear to you, this scum of the earth would have done anything to get him and to hurt you in the process. And now she is projecting her own failed dreams onto your child? Hell to the no. You being cruel? What a joke. I think so, and I also wonder if she could have kids if mine would be discarded entirely. It mostly seems to be Jen's dreams of motherhood that keeps him maintaining any kind of custody schedule. Not the AI hole. Not only was your ex a crap husband, he's also a crap father for allowing his affair partner wife to inflict her motherly desires on your children. It's been a problem in so many ways. It's all documented, though, so at least when the kids get to a certain age, if they want to see him less, I'll have documented proof of the problems. You and your children owe this woman nothing. Good on you for protecting them. As a cheer mom for almost a decade, do not allow her to push your daughter into cheer if she's not interested. It's a dangerous sport, and one of those where you either love it or hate it. My daughter was the former and went hard until she graduated. She got injured so much. Oh, and it's wildly expensive. Not the AI hole. I heard from others the expense is crazy. The risks for injury are worrying too. It makes me glad my daughter has no interest because I'd worry about her being hurt badly. I'm sorry your daughter suffered so many injuries from it. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my deadbeat father's wife and daughter to leave me the F alone? My dad walked out on me and my mom when I, 19 male, was a baby. He didn't pay child support, didn't ever see me, didn't show up at court at any point, and he never reached out to me. I always had questions about him, but my mom was always way too nice about it until I turned 18 and she laid it all out for me. She even showed me the file she had for court that showed all the times he didn't show, how much money he owed, the fact she chased after child support for years, but he always found a way to avoid paying. For 6 years, she tried to chase him through court until she gave up the fight and let the debt compile because it was costing her money and was taking from her ability to support us. He was the truest definition of a deadbeat, and I have nothing good to say and no interest in establishing a relationship of any kind. In September, I got a friend request from this woman on Facebook. We had no friends in common, so I ignored it. Then I rejected it. She sent it again, and so I accepted because I found it weird. A day later, a request came from a girl, and I rejected that, but just like the other account, she sent it again. I saw they were friends, so I left it ignored. Then a DM came from the account I had accepted the request from. Turns out this was my deadbeat father's wife and oldest daughter. They wanted to find me because they felt I should know my family and how I was now old enough to decide for myself. I told them I wasn't interested and to please leave me alone. I unfriended the wife and blocked both accounts and went private. But my Facebook is linked to my Instagram, and the daughter tried to reach me there. She said I didn't know the truth and deserved it, and how she and her siblings always wanted to know their older brother, and how her whole family were hoping we could all come together as a family. I blocked her there and ignored it. The daughter found another account of mine on another platform and has pestered me there ever since. It's constant new accounts, and I have reported some. I tried replying once more saying I'm sorry she got her hopes up, but I'm not interested. The next day I had messages from both mother and daughter saying my mom was the reason I didn't know my deadbeat father and how she was abusive and awful, and he had to leave, and he hated walking away, but she was dangerous and awful to be around, and I deserved to know the kind of thing I was raised by. And yeah, his daughter called my mom a thing. I responded that they were making a lot of accusations and defending him so much, but he left me with a supposedly abusive mother and made no attempt to save me from it in Nasir's, and that it tells me all I need to know about that man. I said once again they needed to leave me alone and I wasn't going to have a relationship with any of them. I thought they were finally going to leave me alone. But then before Christmas, I got a long message from the two of them that basically gave me this sob story of a man who loved me, but feared my life would be worse if he stayed and I'd be abused worse, and how he hoped my mom would abuse me less if he wasn't around. I didn't even address the rest. I told them to leave me the F alone before I go to the police for harassment, and I told them I would if they pushed it. The wife flipped out on me and said, how dare I speak to them in such an abusive way, and clearly I'm my mother's son. She told me I should be ashamed speaking to a teenager that way who did nothing but try to love me. She is so pissed that I had to turn my phone off because I kept getting notified of all these messages, and I tried to stop them contacting me there, but the feature to stop them seems to be wonky on my account. I did go to the police, but I need to keep all of them going forward to make a case for anything. What I had wasn't enough. So yeah, am I the AI hole? Now for the comments. He left because she was abusive, but never paid child support, presumably get paid under the table to avoid getting garnished, and has never actually reached out himself. Yeah, he is full of crap. Correct. Didn't even reach out when they found me online. Not the AI hole. You stated your boundaries and they should respect them, because at the end of the day, you get the last say, not them. You should just block them everywhere and put this behind you because they have no right to disrespect you. Like that. Sorry if my comment is a bit off the hinge. This post just made me a bit mad. They keep making new accounts on this platform since I can't stop non-followers from DMing me on there. The feature does nothing. Go after your deadbeat father for the accumulated child support. That might shut them up. So he chose to leave you with a terrible, abusive mother instead of taking you to safety? Come on, does he not see how that's worse? None of them do. I was meant to feel bad for him, not the AITA whole file for harassment and then get the court stuff from your mom showing he failed to pay 18 years of child support. Say once that is paid in full, then you can talk. I can't yet. I don't have enough evidence. The police said to come back when I have that. Not the AY hole. I would look into any services that will help you go after him for the back child support. Maybe you can get his license taken away or his wages garnished since he wants to harass you through his wife and kid. Even if it's not him leading this, I have talked to my mom about trying. We both agree either he effed himself over or his wife and their daughter did. But either way, we don't care and he needs to pay now. Was she abusive or was it what he told the new wife and kid? It's what he told them. She never abused me. She was the best mom ever, not the a-hole mom. Retired attorney here. My guess is that they want you to sign off on forgiving your father's child support debt. It isn't dischargeable in bankruptcy and cannot legally be waived by the custodial parent on the child's behalf because the right to support belongs to the child, not the parent. Some states allow adult children to sue non-custodial parents for child support arrears. I would contact the Child Support Enforcement Office in your jurisdiction to see if you can make a claim. I'm curious as to what their logic was when you pointed out he didn't even try to fight for custody. All I got was how scared he was for me, which makes total sense. All I got was how scared he was for me. Ah, so he's a craven deadbeat. Well, that's much better. Literally everything came back to how he was so afraid of my awful abusive mother, still not sure if it was just me or me and him she was supposedly abusing, that he abandoned me to her, never filed for custody or showed up to court during any date, and never called Child Protective Service on my mother. He just left and had nothing to do with me from that day onward. Such a loving father treated so horribly, of course. Were his wife and daughter dropped on their head as infants? That holds as much water as a sieve. I know, and honestly, I wonder what the hell is wrong with them to believe any of that.